Northwest Liberty News, picking the lock on the shackles of tyranny.
Machines are going to fail, and the system's going to fail.
The past is past, the future's now.
Don't look at me. I think these people are completely nuts.
Sometimes trouble just follows a man.
There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus.
Can't you stop your lips from flapping for 2 little minutes?
It's because I'm white.
I'm a man. I'm sensitive. I need to feel loved. I need to be desired.
I'm rapidly becoming a big underground success in this town.
It's a question of methods. Everybody wants results, but nobody wants to do what they have to do to get them done.
And now, coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana, brought to you by Northwest Liberty News, it's Montana Gazette Radio with your host, James White. Okay, so I'm your host, James White. This is Montana Gazette Radio. Thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast on the 6th day of August, 2021. And can't believe the year's going by so fast, but it is. I expect they're going to try some shenanigans here again pretty soon with this whole lockdown madness. And it's not about your health, folks. It's about control. We know this. We've talked about this on the broadcast many times. Another thing we've been under control of is an illegal court system. I know that, and you're going to say, "Come on, Jim, that's a conspiracy." No, it's really not. We're going to talk about that and more today with Ron Gibson. We've had Ron on the show numerous times. Just a wealth of information. The type of abuse that we've taken here in this country by the court systems is just. I mean, really, I think it's really helped contribute to destroy this country more than any other institution. One of them, I'll tell you that much. Maybe the IRS, maybe it's close, or the Federal Reserve, I should say. But we're going to have Ron Gibson here on the broadcast. Let me give Ron a proper introduction, and then we'll have him on here. Joining me, as I said, is Ron Gibson. Ron is a former U.S. Marine and Vietnam veteran who currently works as a professional consultant, counselor at law with over 48 years of experience on the subject of land patents, mining law, right-of-way, contracts, water rights, and constitutional law. Raised on a ranch in southern Oregon, he's educated in engineering and constitutional law. Having a cattle ranching and mineral background has helped him tackle many of the issues facing rural America today. Ron has several gold and industrial mineral projects in the western U.S. He currently serves as the vice president of the Southwestern Oregon Mining Association and is the chairman of the Jefferson Mining District located in southern Oregon. A licensed pilot, Ron has designed a helicopter and is the inventor of 2 environmental cleanup products. Additionally, he is also involved in turbine engines, marine boat power plants, and turbine propulsion projects for helicopters and airplanes. His love of history and lifelong experience in cattle and horses has also served him well in his land, hay, alfalfa, and high-quality beef operations. In his spare time, and I always joke to him, what's spare time, man? In his spare time, Ron enjoys collectible auto restoration, raising quarter horses and paint horses, flying and teaching classes on constitutional law, mining law, and land patents. Yeah, Ron, your spare time, huh? I'm sure you got a whole lot of that. Ron Gibson joins us here once again. Ron, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and unmute your mic there. It's going to give you a prompt to go ahead and click that button to unmute it. Nope, I can't. There you go. I can't hear you. You got to click the button to unmute it. We'll get it here just in a second, folks. Again, Ron Gibson, the one and only. There he is. There he is. There you are. Ron Gibson, thanks so much for joining us here on Montana Gazette Radio. And I think this is one of the first times I've actually had you here live. Usually you have your photo up there when you came here to Montana. Well, I don't know, about 5 or 6 years ago, I think. But here we are. You're live here on the air. And Ron, it's great to have you here, man. Looking good.
Well, thank you for having me, Jim. It's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, it is. We had some. Since I've talked to you last, I don't want to certainly belabor the point, but they canceled my big my Twitter channel, my YouTube channel, which had 20,000 subscribers. It's a lot of people that used to watch our show, tuned in, and I think geez, I want to say probably a couple 100,000 views on my YouTube channel. My old YouTube channel was probably your videos and stuff that we did, and talking about some of the things we're going to talk about today. So we're rebuilding here. We've got a bunch of different platforms that we're going to be broadcasting on. We're going to be going on AM, FM radio here coming up very soon. We're just waiting on some computer equipment to get that straightened out, and we're just going to, you know how you have to be, Ron. Just like you have to persevere. You just have to keep moving forward, and the forces of evil are going to always try to put obstacles in your way. You just have to overcome them, and have faith and carry on. So we do appreciate you being here, and we're going to continue to have you on regularly now again, talking about very important topics like we're going to talk about today. Ron, anything you want to say opening? Just sort of, we'll go from the macro to the micro is kind of like what I like to do. Give us your overall viewpoint of what's going on here, Ron. You've been a constitutional lawyer for quite close to 50 years now. You have a very keen eye about what's going on as far as, legally, certainly, and as far as the shenanigans that they're trying to pull with the Federal Reserve and creating, the corporate person that they create. And we've had shows on that before. So just give us your overall 30,000-foot view, Ron, of what's going on in this country. I see it as a communist takeover, simply, but I'm sure there's more elements than that. Ron Gibson.
Well, Jim, you've hit on a very in-depth subject matter here. And one of the things, as you well know, that you and I both, and I'm going to use the term, have been screaming from the top of the rooftop of trying to alert people about what is happening and what is forthcoming. And from what I see, there is an awakening about, man, I'm telling you, my book sales have just skyrocketed. Radio interviews such as yours has very much increased. People are hungry. They now realize, and I think one of the biggest eye openers was what happened in the 2020 election, that a good portion of the American population now realize and recognize that just how corrupt our government system is. And I have said for years and years and years, ever since we started there unlawfully, Congress passed in 1946, I believe it was, on June 11th, the Administrative Procedures Act. That was directly intended to bypass the Constitution and common law, to set up a phony and bogus corporate so-called government that is not a government at all. And what the result of that is that everyone can see now, and now they have the propaganda machine called the major news media. And thank God for your types of programs and the many others around the country. But we're in a serious war here, folks. It's not just a little battle. It's a war. And it's a war for our survival. It's a war to protect our rights and our property. And I keep telling people, and I have for years, Jim, and you've heard me from day one, you better bring your patent forward on your property or you're going to lose it. And we're seeing properties being taken by multiple ways across the nation. They do it by unlawful legislation. They're doing it by court action. They're doing it by environmental influences. They're doing it by taxation. And I read a document here about 8-9 months ago, right around the first of the year, that the intent of this so-called government that we are calling our government is intended that no one but the elite will own any property. They will own it all. And so if you look back, if you look back and you see the things that they've done, boy, it makes a lot of sense about how they're doing it. And so again, thank God for people like you and your program and the many others that we can get the word out. And so I just want to encourage everyone, you better pay attention. and I'm doing this as a stern warning as I know how. You better step up and step forward to do something. And one of the things too, Jim, that I might mention that I run into a great deal, excuse me, and that is the fact that I have a saying, and I have found it to be very true. There are three types of people in this world. And the first one is those who make things happen. And the second one are those who watch things happen. And the third one is those who look around one day and wonder what happened. And, we kind of chuckled at that. But my challenge to each and every one of you out there, which one are you? Are you a person willing to step up and be a part of this battle? Because you're going to lose too. So you better make up your mind what's a priority to you. And I have people all the time, when I challenge them with that statement, they say, well, what can I do? I'm only one. And my immediate response to that is, but you are one. And you and I make two, and the next person makes three, and on and on and on. And you see where I'm going with that. So what we're dealing with here is that the power is inherent in the people. And I'm an avid student of my Bible, have been a better part of my adult life. But God gave man dominion over the entire earth. There's nothing in there says that government is to have dominion over man. And I did an illustration for people in my law group there the other day to help them to understand. And bear with me a minute, this takes just a few moments. But on a whiteboard, I had him write God. And then a little short line goes straight up and down, and then to we the people, which represents basically all of humanity, or within the people of this country relative to the government that we have. Then a line under that, it says government, and a line under that is the courts, and a little line under that is all other entities that are necessary for the support of government. And this last January 6th, very, very vividly illustrated the lack and the failure of not only we the people, but also the government and the courts and all of the other entities. And when you go down that line, that list that I laid out in that whiteboard on the thing, even people that are around me day in and day out kind of raise their eyebrows. They never thought of it in that. And I want to be careful how I say what I'm going to say. Set aside the January 6th intruders there that should have not stormed the Capitol building. But we, the people, when we know that our government is corrupt, we should have been the ones as a nation to storm that. Now, the First Amendment gives us the right of protest, but it does not give us the right to destroy private property or public property. And so, setting that aside, the news media tried to smear everybody that was there as being this kind of criminal. And my point of it is that the Constitution gives you and I, we the people, the right and the authority of which to clean house and start over. And we have sat on our butt and done nothing. We complain like hell, but we do nothing. And here is the result of that. The Bible says that when the ungodly rule, a nation will groan.
That's
when
right.
the godly rule, then that a nation is at peace. And so that's kind of my assessment of it. We're not doing what we should do. And we, the people, are sovereigns, and we have the authority and a God blessing to do and to make right what needs to be made right.
Ron, I'm going to ask you about something here that that I think is vital and it's key. It's one of the key elements of what we're dealing with here. We'll go on a minute to talk about the corporate the corporate structure and your straw man really that is created for you, your corporate person. And we're going to talk about what it means to be a man and woman born on the land. But before we do that, Ron, let's talk here, if we can, about this de jure versus de facto. I'm going to read this, the article. I'm going to read this definitions here of this, Ron, and then I'm going to have you comment on it afterwards. De jure versus de facto. De jure standards, or standards according to law, are endorsed by a formal standards organization. The organization ratifies each standard through its official procedures and gives the standard its stamp of approval. De facto standards, or standards in actuality, are adopted widely by an industry and its customers. They are also known as market-driven standards. These standards arise when a critical mass simply likes them well enough to collectively use them. Market-driven standards can become de jure standards if they are approved through a formal standards organization. Again, these standards arise when a critical mass simply likes them well enough to collectively use them. That is not individual rights right there, Ron. We're not to be ruled in this whole de facto. Just because the majority of the population thinks it's popular to lock people up from the D.C. riots and put them in the hole basically for 6 months without any daylight, just because that's the popular thing to do at the current time, doesn't make it lawful. Can you talk about de jure and de facto, Ron? Can you give us your breakdown on that? That definition seems accurate to you, and do you care to expand on it?
Well, basically, Jim, what you're saying is the difference between a constitutional republic and a democracy. A democracy is best defined as two wolves and a baby lamb voting on what they have for lunch. And a republic is defined as all three of the two wolves and the lamb who's armed with his weapon telling the two wolves, you're not having me for lunch today, tomorrow, or ever. And that's why we have a Second Amendment. And the very fact that they have converted us to what we define in law as a straw man, there's a maxim in law that is universal. And it's just this, Jim. One can only claim jurisdiction over that which one creates. And so as a result of that, under common law, the government cannot control the people. The people control the government. So all these do-gooders and devious minds and everything that is involved in all of the preparation and the creation of this so-called democracy is nothing but a message from hell, because that's what it is. It has everything to do with disarming us in our Second Amendment rights. It has the whole purpose of taking away all of our rights. If you remember, Jim, I did a program with you here a year ago or whatever it was on the 12 presumptions of the court. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, great show. I broke them all down. I broke each one of them down and made an individual video out of each single one of them. Yeah, it was great. Great show.
And the point that I'm making of that there is such a deception on the American people, and they get most of that information, and let me rephrase that, indoctrination from the major news networks. And so that's what they build their attitude on and their opinions on, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the problem with that it's the road that leads to hell. It will destroy this nation. And we're on that road. And I'm trying to give, as you have, and you do it daily, that is to warn people that you better band together and do something about it. So I'm just saying that it's really important that we take a stand.
Ron, what does it mean to be a man born on the land? When they have there's an admiralty court. They want you to be living by the law of the sea. You and I were born on the land. We're a man born on the land, basically not in the sea. I know that's a complicated topic that we can have a whole show on. But tell us if you can, Ron. I mean, how have they tricked us? How have they have much like I've said before in this show, what people don't realize is when they sit down for that first job interview, and the manager comes out, and sits down and says, okay, you need to fill out your tax forms. And you fill out that tax form and you sign that document and turn it in with your signature on it. People don't realize that you have volunteered yourself into 30% of your income being taxed by the government for the rest of your life, and you volunteered to do it. Much like that, Ron, I don't think people realize that their actual who they really are has been usurped and a false person has been created, and that's the one they fine. That's the one they throw in jail. That's the one they give speeding tickets to. That's the one, that it's not even really you. And I know people are going, come on, Jim, you're crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist. Ron, help clear this up if you can a little bit.
Well, here again, Jim, we're dealing with the subject of deception, and it's called the straw man. Let me give your folks a little bit of history. The Congress has enacted some very blunderous and harmful enactments as a Congress that have no constitutional authority to do it. And they all take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, but they're not doing it. They're using it as a manipulative tool to use it when it's handy and to ignore it when it isn't to their benefit. So what we have on this deal of that they're the authority of the sea is the very fact that the claim is, and this is as ludicrous as it gets, that we were born in water from our mother's womb. So therefore, the sea jurisdiction comes into play. It to me is mind-boggling that mindset even entered into anything, because the issue of the land, God gave man, as I mentioned earlier, dominion over the land. And if you look in Scripture, there are 11 different scriptures that address the fact of the word forever. That's where our forefathers got a key word that's in every land patent. It says that the undersigned will, it is granted to the undersigned of their heirs and assigns forever. And so that forever means what it says. It's called a prima facie evidence document. In other words, it says what it says and it means what it says. And so as we go along in all of this manipulation, one of the first blunders that Congress did was the fact of the Act of 1871, which made Washington, D.C. a federal district. Now, whenever you hear the word federal, in most instances, it means corporate. So, federal this and federal that, and then they divide it up into agencies or divisions or whatever term that they want to put on it.
Hold on a second, Ron. Hold on a second. When you say that, what immediately comes to my mind, and I know you are well aware of this, is the Clearfield Doctrine that states any entity that has adopted the role of a corporation doesn't have any more power over you or me than any other corporation. Meaning, if your county is incorporated, the law enforcement agencies in that county have no more right to pull you over and give you a ticket than the manager of the McDonald's corporation does. Because the Clearfield Doctrine states corporations are not allowed to do that. Ron, do you want to comment on the Clearfield Doctrine?
Jim, we had technical difficulty and I couldn't hear very much, of what you said. So
okay.
Can you repeat that?
Sure, absolutely. I'm talking about the Clearfield Doctrine. The Clearfield Doctrine, which you're aware of, that states that any entity that's a corporation has no more rights over anybody than any other corporation. Meaning, if you have an entity that's incorporated, the officials in that corporation can't levy fines against you or ticket you or put you behind bars any more than the manager of the McDonald's could or the corporate officer of McDonald's. This is what the Clearfield Doctrine says. I think it's a Supreme Court ruling. I don't know if I want to say 1946, but it's still case law from what we know. And then we have Marbury versus Madison, as we know, and you've commented on that before. Are you still having technical difficulties, Ron? Are you back? So I think Ron's we got something wrong with Ron's connection. Hopefully he'll be back on here in just a moment. Looks like he's tied up. There we go.
Parts of work. There we go.
Hold on. Okay, we're back now. Did you hear my question about the Clearfield Doctrine?
Well, a part of it.
Okay. My point with the Clearfield Doctrine is that if you're a corporation and you take on the designation of a corporation, you don't have any more rights than any other corporation. You can't arrest people, give them fines. So the sheriff or the law enforcement officer of the corporation, the city corporation, has no more right to give you a fine than the manager of McDonald's has a right to pull you over and give you a fine. care to comment on that? Do you got all that down? Yes.
Yes, I did.
Go ahead.
Well, that's correct. The one thing that the corporations have no lawful authority is to fine you.
Okay, we got some connection issues with Ron.
Or to infringe. Again, there's an old saying, that power corrupts and money and power absolutely corrupt. And that's what we're dealing with on a daily basis with this stuff. So getting back to the straw man issue, for those of you who don't really understand what that is go look at your driver's license. And first of all, let me say, you don't even need a driver's license unless you're in commerce. And the second thing of it is, look at your bank account. All of these social security number and any legal document that you get, even most of your bills that you receive from utilities is in capital letters. They created a new you by using exactly your letters and your name, but only they make it capital, which represents that you're now a corporation under their jurisdiction. And I didn't give them authority to do that. So
Hey, Ron, we're having some technical difficulties. I tell you what. Okay, Ron, can you hear me? Okay.
To rebut that stuff. It's kind of like Jim and I was talking about.
Ron, pause for a second.
That's what I did.
Ron, pause for a second because you're breaking it really badly. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and take a commercial break. If you could go ahead and dump out of the video portion of this. I may have to bring you back on with just the phone because I didn't hear the last minute of what you just said was totally garbled. I couldn't hear anything that you just said, and you've been freezing up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and what we'll do is after the break, if it hasn't cleared up, we'll just go ahead and have you call into that number, and I can just have your image on the screen there because I really want to have people hear what you have to say. It's very important.
Okay.
Okay, we'll take it. I'm going to go ahead and put you on mute. When I come back, just hit that same button as we had last time. I'm going to go ahead and put you on mute, and I'm going to go ahead and run a commercial here, a couple of them, and we'll be back on the other side. Yeah, I think he's frozen up again. So we'll mute him out here. Yeah, he's frozen up. So we're gonna get Ron. We're gonna try to get Ron on the phone because I think he's having problems with his connection. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, folks. We'll be back here on the other side. Yeah, Ron, you're back. Yeah, you're breaking up pretty badly now. I think I'm just gonna have you call in after the break. But we'll be back with Ron Gibson. If you want to get in contact with Ron, you see his phone number right there: 541-621-5548. 541-621-5548, or you can email him at dritecrg@hotmail.com. That's dritecrg@hotmail.com. And we come back on the other side, we'll talk about land patent titles. We'll talk about many other things. There's a wealth of information, Ron Gibson. You can support us by going to MontanaGazetteRadio.com, MontanaGazetteRadio.com, or MontanaDailyGazette.com. We'll be back after these brief messages. I'm your host, James White. If you like classic cars, exceptional service, and a money-back guarantee, then the Corner Shop in beautiful downtown Kalispell is the place for you. Whether it's an oil change, engine diagnostic, suspension work, or brakes all around, the Corner Shop has you covered. With expert technicians and a free consultation on all services, you can't go wrong with the Corner Shop. Did I mention the classic cars? While you're waiting for your expert service to be performed, take a stroll through the showroom to see Kalispell's smoothest collection of classic cars. The Corner Shop is conveniently located at 1212 South Main, just south of the courthouse. The Corner Shop is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., so drop by for an appointment or call 755-7777. That's 755-7777. The Corner Shop, Kalispell's full-service auto repair facility. Hi, this video is brought to you by PatriotPrepared.com, where right now you can save $250 on each large package purchase, plus get free shipping to the continental United States. In these troubled times, it's not a bad idea to have some extra food storage available, and you can save big at Patriot Prepared right now. Go to patriotprepared.com, that's patriotprepared.com, and use the code TRUMP250 at checkout to receive your savings today. Okay, folks, welcome back to the show here, to the broadcast. I'm James White, your host. This is Montana Gazette Radio, montanagazetteradio.com. And if you go to montanagazetteradio.com, you'll see all the, I've been adding channels, really, to, pardon me, to the show here that we're going to be broadcasting on. Let me go over here really quick to this. Here's the page, the Montana Gazette Radio page. You can see we have the new banner here for the AM station. And there's going to be FM too, but I don't know exactly what call letters those are, but there is an FM affiliate. And got additional, these additional platforms here. I have been branching out to here. There's others as well that I haven't included here yet, but we're just going to, plaster them all with the show, the broadcast, to help keep getting the word out here. And we do appreciate your support. When we do finally go on the AM, as again, I said, we're waiting for computer equipment. I didn't realize it takes so darn long to build computer equipment these days with the chip shortages and everything. It's like 3 weeks just to build one. But as soon as that gets here, we're going to be launching after a brief training period by me. And we will certainly make the announcements. And we look forward to having you follow us on that when we take off on that endeavor. Okay, we have Ron Gibson with us here. We're delighted to have Ron back on the show. We are going to try to do try to get Ron back on and get the audio and everything worked out here. And if we have difficulties, we'll bail over to phone. But let's give it a whirl here. Ron, it's going to ask you to go ahead and unmute that microphone again, if you could do that. There you go. You're back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Ron Gibson,
Okay.
constitutional lawyer. Ron Gibson, thanks so much for hanging out with us after the break. We appreciate it, brother. Okay. Are you locked up? Yeah. Okay, so Ron, I'm going to have you, if you can hear me, I'm going to have you go ahead and call in on the. I'm going to go ahead and end the video line, and then go ahead and call in on the call in information I sent you earlier. If you could do that, that would be fantastic. Because we're having problems with this. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and have you call.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and have you call in, Ron. I'm going to go ahead and dump out of this and go ahead and call in, and then we'll have you on the line here. We'll have you back in a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we got Ron Gibson here. We want to hear what Ron has to say. So Ron will probably be back here in just a moment, calling in, I'm thinking, and then we'll bring him back on. Let me pop his image on here, and sorry, folks, we're doing live radio here. So let me get Ron's image here, and it's right here, and we'll have Ron over there just in a minute, and hopefully he'll call in. He's got that information. He'll be calling in just a second. And I just saw it. Where is it at? Anyway, this is Montana Gazette Radio. We had some technical difficulties with Ron. He had some technical difficulties early. So there we go. There's Ron right there. So we're going to have him switch over to phone service, and he should be back in just a moment. But while he's waiting, we can hop over here again. As I stated, we've got the new features here. I should say the new channels here on Montana Gazette Radio, and you can always, of course, go to Montana Daily Gazette, which this is just a page under the Gazette, and you can see all the great information and news that we pumped out here. If you haven't been following my Whitefish Credit Union expose, it's about to get good. That's all I'm going to say. You check it out on Montana Gazette, Montana Daily Gazette. And you can get all the latest news and information from Montana the best we can put it out. And we're really growing. We have a lot of people that are joining up with our groups and helping get information out to us, sort of on the road reporters, I guess you could say, freelancers that are contributing a great amount of information. A lot of people that love liberty and freedom, and they like what we're doing on Montana Daily Gazette, and they want to help out in their own way in the efforts, and we applaud them. It's up to, we've talked about before, folks. It's up to us. It's always been up to us. And Ron Gibson talks about that, about empowering people, and about people getting their property back. Really, we want to talk about the land patent titles, which we have discussed numerous times on the show. But hopefully I can get Ron to call back here. I don't know if he's having difficulties with his phone line or difficulties with his service there where he's at. He's over in Oregon. So we'll hopefully have Ron back here in a moment on the show. But, you know, as we've stated several times here on the broadcast, and it hasn't really changed, nothing's changed. This is, you know, our country. We can't really rely on other people. Now, of course, we have to everybody can't go to Washington, you know, and vote on things. And we have to, forget Washington. I take that back. I rewind. Forget Washington. Even Montana. I mean, let's just forget about Washington, D.C. and the crooks over there. Hold on. Is this Ron calling in? Hey, Ron, is that you on the line?
Yes, sir, it is. Finally got through.
There he is, Ron Gibson, back. Ron, thanks so much. Sorry for the hassle. Thanks so much. I think we just had a connection issue there with the the service, but you sound really loud and clear now. So, Ron, thanks for coming back. And I tell you, if you can, I know we're going to circle back around here a minute, not to use the the word that wacky press reporter said, or Jen Pataki says, or whatever her name is. We're going to circle back if we can. I want to just. The Clearfield Doctrine, we talked about that briefly, and that whole thing that you replied got totally cut out. Now that we're back speaking plainly and we can hear each other, I read in the Clearfield Doctrine, Ron, that it says someone adopts the position of a corporation, they have no more power than any other corporation. My question to you is, Ron, I think we've agreed that that's true. Why are more lawyers? Why are more lawyers not bringing that up? I mean, if you just state that Supreme Court law, isn't Supreme Court law supposed to have precedence, or they just disregard Supreme Court law?
Well, they're disregarding it, and that's the point that I was making earlier, is the very fact that the American people have been so indoctrinated that they don't even know what the truth is. When you start having the government entities and the attorneys and the media and all of those that are in cahoots with this perpetration of wrong on we the people, pretty soon the people get confused about what is right and what is wrong. And boy, that's a dangerous situation when the people no longer understand what's going on, because then they don't know what to do about correcting it. So that's why I do what I do. That's why you do what you do, and many others. And the very fact that, like I said earlier, I see an awakening happening. I just hope that it's not too late. But the corporation wants to take control of our life, that we are slaves. And that's how we're viewed as a slave. That's how we're treated as a slave, and that's how we're identified as a slave. They just use a different term of which to do that, and it's called a United States citizen. You don't want to be a United States citizen, and we've been told all our lives, and that's hurrah, hurrah, and wave the American flag, that we're free. It's the furthest thing from that, and most people don't understand that. I want to share very quickly, Jim, if I may. There's a court case called City of Dallas versus Mitchell. And in that case, on page 3, you will find a statement made by the court in that particular case. And the court stated, and I quote, "Our rights don't come from government. Our rights come from our Creator. And we are not obligated nor subject to the government rules and regulations unless we volunteer to be subject to those rules and regulations." And you alluded to that point a little bit earlier there. So, but people have been indoctrinated and lied to and manipulated to the fact that what they think they're doing is the right thing is actually subject themselves to this ungodly jurisdiction. And then we wonder why that things are awry the way that they are. And so my prayer is that people will wake up and stand up and take a step forward to correct him, because we, the people, have the power. The United States Supreme Court has ruled over and over and over and over that sovereignty resides in the people. And we got courts, oh, you're one of those sovereigns. Policemen say, oh, you're one of those sovereigns, and on and on. You damn right I'm a sovereign, because I'm a creation of God Almighty. That makes me a sovereign. And we have been given sovereign powers, both by God and also by our Constitution. So we the people, I don't know if people understand, that was not part of the original document that went to the Commonwealth of Delaware for the first one to sign it. They added those 3 words. Look at the Constitution. The writings are the different direction than the rest of the document. And there's a reason for that. It was added after the original document was constructed. But what I find interesting about that, well, I don't know, and I've searched the record, and I've been to Washington, D.C., and looked at the archive records. I don't know whether they knew what they were doing, or whether they did know what they were doing, or whether they were just divinely inspired. But those 3 words are so critical that most people don't even understand. Those 3 words made you and I and every American king of our land collectively, and king of our land individually. And that's typified individually by your land patent, by the true title and only title to land. Without land, you have no rights. And with the land patent issued that's passed down either by an heir of the property or an assign, in other words, that you purchased the property or acquired it, however, means that you're king of your land, because they're a allodial title. And that allodial title is forever. So, there are things we can do, Jim, that we're not doing. My Bible says for one to learn, one must be willing to be taught. And had a guy yesterday on a radio program, got on, and the host of the radio program relayed to me what he said. The guy's got his head right up where the sun don't shine, and the asinine statements that he made and the comments that he made. And, I've been in this stuff a long time, and everyone has a right to disagree with me. I don't have a problem with that. But if you disagree, then bring your evidence and we'll sit down to the table and we'll discuss it. But I really have a disdain for somebody that shoots off their mouth and just on the basis of emotion and claim that what I present, because I always back my stuff up, Jim. You know that. You've known me a number of years. I wrote 2 books, and in those books are just loaded with case law that has never been overturned. So I'm very, very careful, and I learned that in law school, that you better be able to back up what you're presenting. And I work hard at doing that. So, everyone, we have, yes, go ahead, Jim.
I tell people, Ron, that the bar, the attorneys, the bar organization took a secret oath that their loyalties lie to the bar before the Constitution, and they look at me like I have a third eye growing out of my forehead. Can you follow up on that, Ron, and tell me and affirm what I just stated, and to the best of your ability for us, please?
That is correct. You are absolutely correct. The other thing people don't know about is the fact that the Bar Association has joined the Communist Party. I have proof of it. They even made a publication of that, of the Bar Guild. And so we wonder why there is, I'm going to use most all of them, not all, but most all, are practice ungodly practices that affect the detriment of their so-called clients and society as a whole. There's a tremendous, I did a law class. I teach a number of law classes, and I did a law class on why attorneys are not lawyers. And everybody thinks they're one and the same. And I can tell you as a matter of fact and law that they are absolutely not. They're as diabolically opposed as it can get. And so you're correct. They do take an oath. That's why when I did the 12 presumptions of the court, I spell out a lot of that about the secret oath that you just alluded to that they take. And that's why they don't want testimony on the record. When you go into a court hearing, it's not on the record. And that's a dangerous thing, because then whatever you say or present there, they can manipulate it.
Unless it's a court of record where they have a stenographer there that's taken down the notes, right? I mean, there is such a thing called a court of record, correct? That you can go to and get a record. Go ahead.
A court of record is one of which every bit that is said in the court proceeding is accurately recorded. And when you have a hearing is not a trial. A hearing is just something before a judge that in fact it can manipulate the whole setting on the thing simply because nothing is accurately recorded. And even if it is, before you go get it, say, well, I want to buy a copy of that. There's a person that's hired specifically by the court of which to pull out things that are in your favor or to cut it completely out.
Wait. Hold on, Ron. Go back over that again. Are you telling me that the courts have a person on staff that goes through the recorded, the notes of the stenographer and pulls out anything that would benefit the defendant? That
is correct. That is correct. I have proof of that. I've got several there that I have in storage of court cases way back when, the very fact that happened. And it happens a lot of times. Right. I have other people call me and say, Ron, I got a copy of that, and this particular testimony or that particular exhibit to be entered in as evidence. And that's the other thing. If you have an exhibit and you present that to the court, you tell the court that you want them to enter that as evidence. Don't just leave it as an exhibit, because they're not bound by exhibits. They're only bound by evidence.
What's your thoughts about the citizens' grand juries, Ron? And I think that goes back to the de jure versus the de facto. I think that sort of plays into that somewhat. Is that a strategy you think that could be something that could be beneficial in helping take this country back, is forming citizens' grand juries? Go ahead.
Absolutely. They are being created all over the country. That the citizens' grand jury, I did a law class on the power of the sheriff. Boy, everyone should attend that kind of class, because of the way that our sheriff's department and our so-called frontline defense is nothing but part of the Gestapo, if I can put it in that context. The sheriffs are elected by basic of authority of the Constitution, okay? And as a result, we the people elect them. Therefore, they are to be our servants. Well, the problem with that is that once you elect a gentleman or a lady for a sheriff, then after they take their oath, they take the constitutional hat off and they put an administrative hat on, and then they go to the courthouse and they pick up a summons there and complaint, or they have a writ of assistance to come and kick people out of their home. That's not what he's there to do. He's not there to be a servant of the court. He's there to be a protective barrier between unjust court regulations and state legislative legislations or whatever. And I don't know if you'd allow me just a moment. There's a famous case in Nevada called the Hague case versus United States. And it was about 20, 30 years ago that it started and lasted for 17 years. But the gist of it was that the Forest Service decided that they were going to take a ranch away from Wayne Hague and his wife, Joan or June, I don't remember her name. So anyway, they started cutting off their water to their cattle and all, and it's called a Pine Tree Ranch there in Nye County, Nevada. And boy, I mean to tell you, it got downright dirty of everything that government was trying to do to steal that ranch. They were killing their cattle. They were running their cattle off. And then they sent the sheriff's department there to try to confiscate them. And the sheriff said, I'm not doing it. So anyway, then the Forest Service got a hold of the U.S. Marshals to come and to take it. And they brought a whole slew of U.S. Marshals. And the sheriff was at the ranch when they showed up. He got word that they were coming. And so when the U.S. Marshals said, we've come to confiscate the cattle, and they had cattle trucks lined up, it was a huge deal. And that sheriff told that marshal, the head of the U.S. Marshal, he said, you don't step one step on this ranch. He said, because if you do, I'm going to arrest you. And they tried to beat him down and tried to tell him that they had more authority than he did. And he said, let's see. He said, step over that line there where the gate was. And he said, I will call my SWAT team and I will have every one of you arrested and you will be prosecuted. And they stopped and raised their eyebrows and finally backed down. That's the kind of sheriffs we need, not someone that will be another government agent to come along and use that power of the sheriff's office to turn around and to deprive of us our rights, our money, and our property. And you see it all the time. I can tell you horror stories about things the sheriffs have done. Come with armored vehicles and stuff to kick a man and his woman, a 60-year-old man and woman, out of their home on a foreclosure. First of all, the foreclosures are unlawful. The bank never loaned you any money. For all of you that have loans out there, the bank never put up any money. Your promissory note is what bought your property. You buy your property with your own money. And we can get into that subject in another interview here with Jim sometime if you want. But the whole point that I'm trying to make is that these common law juries there that are being put together, boy, I mean to tell you, are starting to have force and effect because they're rising up all over the nation. The American people are finally figured out and have had a belly full of this so-called government that they're starting to do something about it. And thank God for that. Man, that was needed years ago.
And you know,
but
Ron,
here we are today.
And Ron, what I've said before on my show, and I think you would agree, no one's got to break out any arms. They don't have to bring out baseball bats, tire irons, beat people up, and cause a bunch of ruckus. All we have to do is say we're not going to participate in your evil government any longer. All we have to do is decide not to participate. We don't have to do any harm to anybody. We just say we're not going to comply anymore. We're tired of your criminality. We're not going to comply. If we could get together and do that, Ron, their whole system would fall apart.
It wouldn't take all that many to accomplish what you just said, Jim. But there's an old saying, and let me share it if I may. There are three ways to solve a political dilemma with our so-called elected officials. Number one is the ballot box. Number two is the jury box. And number three is the ammo box. Now, the last one is a last resort issue. But by the same token, it's there for us constitutionally if we have to use it and the other two elements fail. And so, boy, you hit the nail on the head there.
Ron, what we're coming up here just in a couple of minutes left here on the show, and everything. Time just goes by so fast. What kind of stuff, Ron? As we have you back, we're going to have you back again regularly. We're going to pick up the Freedom Friday, especially once we get back. It'll be a few weeks before we get back on the AM and FM, but we're going to have you on Freedom Friday. What kind of things are we going to talk about, Ron? I mean, you mentioned about the driver's license. From my research and from my understanding, and I know people are going to go, man, you're crazy. From my understanding, Ron, is the police aren't even allowed to turn on their flashers unless it's an emergency. When you're on a stoplight, it's not an emergency. There's no really justification for them to do that. Moreover, where's the victim? When you're on a stop sign, they pull you over and give you a ticket. Point to the victim. Show me who I've victimized. Who have I harmed? Who have I disenfranchised? Whose property have I destroyed that I have to be fined to be able to replace it? Because that's really what the fines and everything were originated for. If I, drove my wagon over someone's fence and knocked it down, then the constable would show up and write me a fine so I could replace the fence so the guy is made whole again. It wasn't for running a stop sign and for them to fine you $125. We're talking about that and other things, but just touch on that if you can, Ron. How they really, we have been just the whole corporate government has just usurped us on every level, and that's what they're doing to us, is they're finding us and really, eating out our future, eating out our livelihood. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, let me say to start with that there's a scripture in my Bible that says, "Never was a lion so vicious as an ungodly man with power." And boy, we're seeing that every single day, aren't we? But to get back to your point on the thing, anytime that the lights of a law enforcement, let me back up a minute. See, what they did, our police agencies used to be called peace officers. But because government functions on a heavy hand and brute force, the issue of any compassion or understanding or whatever is long been stomped into the dirt. Now they want to rule us by force. And so therefore, when you get stopped on the highway and you're doing 5 or 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, that's an unlawful stop, simply because the very point you made is who's the victim. Unless you create an accident, then that's a whole different issue. But the only authority that a police officer has of stopping you or arresting you is when he actually eyewitnesses you committing a crime. Otherwise, he has no lawful authority. That's the reason that they got away from common law when they implemented, Congress did, the Administrative Procedures Act in June 11, 1946, I believe it is, for the purpose of having corporate rules and regulations. They're called statutes and codes. Statutes and codes are not law. I repeat, statutes and codes are not law. They're corporate rules and regulations. And unless you're part of the corporation, you're not bound by that. There's nothing that binds you to that. Like I say, unless, like the court said in City of Dallas versus Mitchell case, if you volunteer to be subject to that. And we got people all over this nation running to volunteer for stuff that is nothing but a detriment to their lives.
Ron Gibson, always great to have you on. We're just running towards the end of the program here. Let's give out your email address here and your phone number. You can get in touch with Ron via email, and I think I have a copy of your book here, Ron. I do, Land Patent Titles. Here it is. Here's a land patent title book that Ron has. It's a must-have if you own your home. You got to get your land patent title. We've talked about that, and that's maybe what we'll do. Maybe we'll circle back around next time, Ron, and talk about land patent titles. But this is Ron's book right here, What You Need to Know About Land Patent Titles by Ron Gibson. You can find out more about that and send him an email by going to dritecrg@hotmail.com. Again, that's dritecrg@hotmail.com. Or you can phone him at 541-621-5548, 541-621-5548. Ron, so good to have you back on the broadcast after a long hiatus imposed by me. Nothing against you. It's just so much has been going on. I've been doing this investigation for Whitefish Credit Union, and we've been switching up with the YouTube channels, and we moved away from Blog Talk, and we're getting another call-in line, and there's just so much going on right now. We're in flux, moving over to the other stations and expanding, that we just haven't had you on in a while, Ron. So, but we're delighted that you still are willing to come on the broadcast and always have great information, and we're looking forward to many more great shows ahead. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate all of you and your audience as well. Thank you.
Back at you, brother. Okay, we're going to let you go. Thanks, folks. For here's Ron. We'll talk to you later. I'm going to go ahead and end your feed here. There goes Ron Gibson. We appreciate having Ron here on the show. Always great to have him on. Just like I said, a wealth of information. And keep tuning in. We're going to have him back on regularly on Montana Gazette Radio. It's MontanaGazetteRadio.com, MontanaGazetteRadio.com. If you want to visit the #1 online news website in Montana, you can go to MontanaDailyGazette.com. And we do appreciate your support. Now, before we go again here, I want to bring up, if I can, and show you the new, and it's in process. I'm going to be working on it some more today. This is the new radio page at MontanaGazetteRadio.com. You can see it's broadcast. It's advertising our new broadcast here coming up for the Montana Radio Broadcasting Group. And here are some of the additional links here to Minds, which is like a social media. It's like Twitter. Odyssey, which is our video channel. Rumble, which is a video channel. BitChute is a video channel. Then TikTok is TikTok, of course. DTube and Instagram. Both Instagram, you know, is a sort of a chat channel. And DTube is like YouTube, but different. So this is these are all, and there's the others, of course, Twitch, DLive, and there's others I'm going to be adding on here. And eventually we'll have the broadcast, be live on the front page of Montana Daily Gazette. Working on that as well. But we do appreciate all your support. And please follow us and like the video and share it around. And tell people about Montana Daily Gazette. Thanks again for looking in. Want to thank our guest, Ron Gibson, for being on the show today. And until next time, this is James White for Montana Daily Gazette and Montana Gazette Radio, saying bye now.